And I have to tell you, my constituents are furious. They're angry at what has occurred at the IRS. As I come into this meeting today, there's a lot that's on my mind and on their minds, but the first thing I want to know, did you meet with anyone from the White House to prepare for this meeting?
I did not.
Were you briefed on this?
I did not.
Have you spoken with the President about this matter?
I spoke to the President on May 16th or 17th, around the day I was appointed. We had about a 20-minute conversation where he articulated his expectations for my mission over at the IRS.
Did he order you to clean house, to terminate anyone, to hold anyone accountable?
He ordered me to do an accountability review. His primary order to me was to restore the trust. He offered several guiding principles to me, such as operate in good faith.
So he did not order you to terminate, clean house, or hold anyone accountable? Just to restore the trust?
He and Secretary Liu gave me a first assignment. They asked for a plan, again, which I'm prepared to provide by the end of this month. And in that plan, there were 3 aspects to it. And that first aspect was get to the bottom of this and hold the appropriate people accountable. So that's the way the instruction was framed.
Regardless of whether the President asked you to or not, do you plan on clearing house, terminating anyone, or holding anyone accountable?
I certainly plan on holding people accountable. I don't know that
what is your definition of accountable?
So that's a good question. Here's where we are right now in the process. We have an audit report that the Inspector General provided, and that audit report has conclusions about mismanagement. And so the first part of the review is to figure out whether any of that mismanagement would lead one to the conclusion that that individual can no longer hold a position of public trust in the IRS. And that's my first order of business.
You've already stated publicly that the public trust has been lost. You've stated that in the beginning of this meeting.
Right.
You also have stated that to the Chairman's question, if somebody has done something wrong, would you terminate them? And it was in accordance to the tax credits. And you said advertently, if somebody knowingly, advertently, and intentionally does that, yes, you would fire them. So we know that something has occurred here, and yet we hear there's this long review process, and yet no one has been held accountable. So for the committee, has anyone to date been held accountable?
Well, let me answer your question this way. If you look at the IRS organization...
That's a yes or no. Has anyone been held accountable?
I would say yes, and then I'd like to expand on that. If you look at the IRS organization today versus the day the IG report was issued, we have new leadership in the Commissioner's Office, Deputy Commissioner for Services and Enforcement, Commissioner for Tax-Exempt and Government Entities, and in the exempt organization.
That is new leadership, but who has been held accountable?
Well, I think the leaders that were replaced, certainly I think the fact that they're no longer holding positions of public trust, that's part of the accountability. The critical point here...
Were they terminated?
In most cases, resigned.
Voluntarily, or were they asked to resign?
It's a combination, but for example, Steve Miller was asked to resign.
So resignation is accountability? Is that what you're telling the American people?
Well, here's what I'm saying.
Lois Lerner being on administrative leave is accountability. Is Lois Lerner still being paid today?
She is.
Is that your definition of accountability?
Well, if you'd indulge me just to answer the question again.
That's an easy yes or no.
There's 2 stages to accountability here. The first stage is based on the facts we have now to determine who can no longer hold a position of trust within the IRS. And the second stage, which I know is where you're going, is to determine whether there was any underlying malfeasance or issues that would warrant dismissal. We're going to follow the facts where they take us. We just do not yet have that completed review. Inspector General...
If you don't know that there's underlying malfeasance, then why was somebody asked to resign?
Because the decision was made that that person could no longer hold a position of public trust because of the failures of management oversight. Whether those failures were motivated by something...
So they were asked to resign just to restore public trust for public perception purposes, or maybe political purposes.
No, I wouldn't say that. I would say that when there's a breakdown in management, when there's gross mismanagement, you have to make tough decisions about whether that person can continue to hold their position of trust.
Well, one last question, Mr. Chairman. I know it's my time's expiring. Have either of you asked the individuals in Cincinnati who ordered this? Who ordered them to use this extra scrutiny to punish or penalize or postpone or deny? Has that question been asked of any employee?
Yes, sir. Yeah, during our audit, Congressman, we did pose that question, and no one would acknowledge who, if anyone, provided that direction.
So no one would acknowledge who gave the directive to do this.
That's correct. In
That
response to
question
our
has been asked.
question during the audit phase of this.
Mr. Werfel, are you satisfied with that
No.
response from the individuals in Cincinnati? Will
No.
you get to the bottom of that?
We have to get to the bottom of that. I completely agree.
No matter how high it goes up the chain, you will find out who made this order.
We will uncover every fact.
Thank you.